A question that I would love to learn from. I want to direct to Pastor Roberts and to our mayor. I think that there's a lot of times when we have all had different childhood experiences in the past, and those experiences define us, and they define, our beliefs. A lot of times, they define the way in which we interact with anyone. I'm just curious, has there been an instance where maybe people have acted in a sinful way towards you, or has in any way belittled you or anything like that? And if so, what was that experience? And help us understand, what that experience was like.
Well, yes. I can give you a lot of many instances. All the way from being called the N-word to looking down the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun before a fella even knew my purpose. But I'm just going to give you one example. Of course, I'm the old school of the group, I think. And there was a time in America where clean shaven was the norm, especially in the white. I went to work for the USDA. 20 years old, like Brother Jimmy over there, and I had a mustache and a goatee. All of the employees, white males, clean shaven. That was the thing. And the first thing that happened after I came on, and I'm the only one, I'm the only black in the group, in this field office. And of course, everything from the snide remarks and so on and so forth. And finally, one of the guys said to me, "We don't do that around here." I thought, "Don't do what?" I knew what he was talking about. He said, "We may have to catch you and lay you down in shade." And so I said, "Well, that wasn't in the criteria when I was hired." And I said, "But if you think that's what you need to do, maybe we need to go and talk to the head of the Area Constellations." And he immediately backed up. But from then on, every time I was in his presence or his comrades, they made me know I didn't fit the norm. I was supposed to look like them. I didn't let it bother me because I knew that they couldn't make me change. I couldn't make me. But that's just some of the things that you face. Now, by the same token, those kinds of things, it's all in the ear. Now look around, everybody got a beard. It's all, but what I'm really speaking to is there has been a norm set. If we do this, not as much now, but if we do this, then you're supposed to do it. Automatically.
Right.
And of course, that's just something that
So what year was that you went to work?
We're talking 1972.
Okay.
Well, 1970.
1970.
Yeah. If you came out of A&M or Texas Tech, because I went to USDA, or Stephen F., you were supposed to be, if you wasn't a blonde and a redhead, you needed to be shaved. You had to be, or else boom.
Right. Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that experience. I've never had to look down the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun. That has never been my experience. And so I can only imagine what that's like. Mayor, what about you? What about your life experiences, interactions, things like that?
I've had a number of incidents throughout my life, beginning even when I was, you didn't take this off.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I've had a number of experiences since I was a kid growing up. I think I spoke about last week when I was around 12. just going down to Oakland Park from my house. I live over on South Oak Tyson growing up, and just walking to the park, I would get harassed by the police or whatever. On numerous occasions, being called boy, where are you going, boy, this and that, just called me out of my name for no apparent reason. And I'm just going to the park. And I feel like, just as any other kid in America, I should be able to go to the park without being harassed.
Right.
The simple things like that. Another incident, and I know it's a lot of it, so I want to kind of go through it. But even when I joined the military, I had just bought a brand new car at Satellite Motors. Actually, Robert Nance actually sold me the car. And I was on my way back to Norfolk, Virginia, and I got pulled over. I knew I was I wasn't speeding because I was in unfamiliar territory. So I always abide by the law, especially when I'm somewhere I don't feel that comfortable with.
Right.
But I was pulled over, and for no apparent reason, he came to the car, and I asked him why he pulled me over, this and that. He asked me where I was going. He never told me why he pulled me over, but just, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going to Norfolk, Virginia. He said, well, what are you doing in this car? I said, well, why did you pull me over? He said, where'd you get this car? I said, I just bought it like a couple of days ago. I was at home on leave and bought the car, and I'm on my way back to my duty station. So he asked me for my registration and license and all that. I gave it to him. He asked me, how can you afford this car? Just, constantly nagging about it. I'm like, I gotta hurry up and get back. If I did something, tell me what I did, give me a ticket or whatever you need to do, and I'll go on.
Right.
But I was there for almost 30 minutes. I had my newborn kid in the car, my wife, it was just antagonizing. And by the time I probably got another 80 miles down the road, I was pulled over again. Pretty much the same process. That's, so that was another incident. It's heart-wrenching to go through life walking on eggshells because of the color of your skin. No one should have to do that. America's supposed to be a free country. You're supposed to be able to have your liberties and whatnot, and everyone's supposed to be equally, treated. But that's not the case.
Right.
And I think it just those two experiences when I was growing up. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people like
Sure.
me that went through it.
I'm just curious, how many of you guys at the table have a similar experience to what these guys shared? By the grace of God, I haven't. And, Mayor Craig, you mentioned something. You mentioned the insensitive nature of the word boy. Just talk about that for a minute.
Well, I feel like I'm a man, first of all.
Right. So what year was that in?
Well, like I said, when I was 12, I was a boy, but it was the deep expression behind the word boy that irritated me, because I was no different. You could talk to my dad and call him boy, and seeing that you call my dad boy in a certain way, and then you turn around and you use that same thing towards me. You have no respect for me or anybody like me.
Right.
And also understanding the culture, especially during that time period. The word boy was considered by our culture racist. It was demeaning. It was trying to put you down. It was just saying you beneath me. You won't call you man because I'm equal with you, but you call boy because you're beneath me. And so knowing the culture, understanding that culture, trigger words, stuff that would cause something to rise up.
So it wasn't the N word, but it might as well have been.
Might as well be the same
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
If you saw the signs,
It's yes.
if you saw the signs of during the civil rights movement, one of the major signs was "I am a man," and what that meant was because you were never considered
Right.
a man, and that's, I think that was one of the main signs that were with the protesters. I am a man, because you were always referred to as a boy. When you were 10 or 7.
Yeah, it was more like I said, to me it's more dehumanizing. And throughout history, we know, like I said, being less than a man, not even considered human in some aspects. So it's just, like Pastor Ronnie said, you have trigger words, and I believe, like I said, even as a kid, you know, it's like at one point in your life, you know when you're being talked down to, and you know, being a little boy growing up and going to school and going to history classes, not like why we always considered to be less. No matter what we do, we consider to be less. Whatever we do, we have to do twice as hard. You know, it's just, it's always a burden on your shoulders, and having to walk again on eggshells, just to be accepted in society.
Can I say
Mr.
this
Eddie,
about the
you were
word
saying
boy?
something, yeah.
The word, when boy is used in the wrong, in a negative term, it's giving off the meaning that I don't want to know your name. You're going to be what I call you today.
Yeah.
And you have no significance, because anybody with significance have a name, have a family, have a lineage or whatnot. But when you all are boys, you mean nothing to me. You are something that's in the way that I need to speak to right quickly.
Right.
And so when someone says boy, that's why something rises, because you're saying I'm insignificant. Because I have a name that you haven't asked me for, but you've called me what you want me to be. And you expect me to answer
Yeah.
to what you want me to be. And that's the issue.
You know, that's an interesting point, because the thing that the common ground that I'm hearing you guys say with using that term is that there's no relationship.
Right, right, yeah.
Right. So it's different when we call each other nicknames and we poke fun at each other and things like that, because there's relationship, right? And so without relationship, those things have a totally different meaning. Right? And so I'd like to direct this next question to Pastor Carlton, Dr. Rundles, and Jose. I'd like to bring you in on this too. Stereotypes are something that we know all exist. For example, a lot of us around this table were pastors. What do you think a stereotype is of a pastor?
That we don't mess up.
That we can't mess up. Right? We can't.
Stereotype is for preachers that we're gonna preach
What do
too
you,
long.
what do you think, that we're going to preach what?
We're gonna preach too long.
We're going to preach too long. Oh man, I'm glad I'm in good
First
company.
thing they wanna know is he long-winded?
So here's another thing. What do most people think preachers talk about the most?
No.
Money.
Yeah.
How often do you preach on money?
You can't.
You can't, because
Because that's the number one tool that the enemy use to run people away from the church or causes them not to come. So you can't. It's a must. We have to, because we have to have finances to keep the sanctuary, things like that going. But if you harp on it too long, then it becomes it's all about money.
right.
Just-
And there are some pastors that would we say are very well known for speaking about money. Maybe a lot of times. And so maybe we catch a bad rep because of what other pastors have preached on, right? There's a stereotype in a way.
Right.
So to those guys, what have been a stereotype that maybe has been cast upon your life?
Here's like a story. Me personally, I didn't grow up in an era like Pastor Roberts or even Pastor Rundles, but at the school I grew up in and was in a part of, everybody was kind of in the same boat. All the black kids was, and if you were black, you thought to be bad. You had you only had one parent in everybody's eyes. When you weren't smart, you couldn't get your grades, you didn't do any homework. And that's the type of stuff that we grew up with, because the teacher, you come into class and they'll automatically assume that you are like this. And so I remember a time to where I was a straight A student to school, and a time where I got a B. My mom didn't play. She just didn't play. If you got a B, she said they gave you a B. She'd tell me, they gave you the B. You didn't work for the B. And so she went to the school to see why I got the B. And then the teacher told her that there's no way I could have made that on the test. They grade on the test because nobody else got that grade. And so she just assumed that I was cheating because I got a grade higher than everybody else in the class. And it wasn't because I couldn't do it, but because she, in her mind, she thought that's how it was supposed to be. And so I haven't went through anything like anybody else has went through, but being a black man, you do see, you walk into the stores, people watching you. They assume that you're trying to steal something. I mean, the cops, some of them a little harder on you. And I mean, it depends on where you're at and what you're going to receive. And just because you're a black man or a black person, sometimes it has an effect on how people treat you. Even getting jobs, sometimes you don't get the jobs because of the color of your skin. And they don't say it or outright say it, but you can tell that that's why, you know, it happens because of the stereotype you have on that color.
Dr. Ronald, what about you? What about
Growing up black in America, 1968, I was in the first grades. My class was the first class at the integrations to go all 12 years. But it's tough. You'd be thrown into a group. Everybody from that location that you was raised in, everybody's the same way. You know, you had to prove yourself. You had to go twice as hard than others, even in athletics. You have to be twice as good as your predecessors to be able to play. You always had to fight harder. You always had to prove yourself in every situation. Whether it was in education, you know, we're focusing on one area, but we're talking about education, we're talking about job. I retired from the Department of Transportation after 30 years. And the only reason I was hired because of an affirmative action. The only reason I was elevated in that particular state job is because they needed an African American to be in leadership. Yeah, sure, it's considered somewhat reverse discrimination, but that was the only leg up that we had. You know what I'm saying? And so to be stereotyped because your learning capacity is limited because of the color of your skin or because of the demographic that you was raised in. Those are some of the stereotypes that we last week we talked, and I was sharing, I mean, the thing about it, if you never walked a mile in a man's shoe, you never understand the man.
Yeah.
To wake up black every day and then deal with the same thing, driving through a neighborhood with a new car, driving through a certain neighborhood with an old car, you know, you become a target. But how many of you always have to prove yourself and build yourself up? So those are some of the stereotypical things that people of color has to deal with, you know. And so the demographics has changed. When I was in school, Brother Jose, we had 3 Hispanic families here, and we was excited about one another. But I mean, that was a movement even in the 70s, I'm telling my age a little bit, even in the 70s, that, you know, say it out loud. I'm black and I'm proud. And our culture, we exemplify our happiness and our emotions. And then there was a time, even in the mid-70s, to me, it seemed like it's digressed now, or where we at. But we had to work so hard to accomplish the things we had. So many people had to sacrifice for us to have the pencil job. You know, not working with the shovels now, working with the pens. But we forget about those people who led the way because of stereotype. That a black man can be president, that a black man can be mayor. You know, those some of the things, and this is just knowing your environment. But one of the things my class did establish, because we raised up together from kindergarten, we bonded together. You know, we embraced one another, and we had a closeness because while we really begin to understand one another's culture. Yeah.
Man. Pastor Jose, how about you? What about stereotypes? What do you hear? What do you experience?
It's so hard to explain, and it's from Roberto Island, myself, even in Mexico, that I came from a very poor family, and that leaves a mark on you. I am the number 5th from my family. My dad died when I was 1 year old. So after that, I don't know nobody, just my grandpa, and he raised me till 5 years when somebody killed him. And after that, I don't have nobody, no man around me to show me how to grow. I had father everywhere in the streets that correct me, sometimes to fight, and even in our own town, you know, in my city, that's hard to grow up, because everybody wants your mama, so your mama is this, your mama is that, because I have another 5 brothers. My mom, she never married, so you imagine how people criticize her. And people say, my family, my uncles, everybody say, ooh. My mama's name was Reina. Say, Reina, you got a daughter, it's gonna be like you. And my first brother, well, I have a sister and brother. He went to the military school, and he retired be a general a couple of years ago. And I have another sister that she went to school in Tijuana. She's a lawyer. And then my brothers helped me to go to school, and I graduated in '86 to be in bed. So when we come out to town, because we disappear from the town, we come and maybe for a month, couple of months to town, they look at us, and everybody get, ooh. Look their mama, and look how they are. So we fight, but we fight alone. We have nobody else around us. So we have one thing in our mind, used to do something correct. And not to be in trouble, not to be involved in nothing else, to be in jail. So I went to school, I finished my school on a veterinary school right there on the port of the Gulf, in Veracruz City. And then after I came over here. When I came over here, I have a good welcome. Welcome to the United States, went back, go home.
Oh, really?
Go back.
That was your welcome.
Welcome. Go back. Even if we think here, if we're talking about racial colors about it, we are under you. We are the very bottom. You have a very good privilege about us. When I was working, we have different levels, different type of work. And we decided to climb to escalate, in work. And our vice president, he's good, but he don't trust too much on different people. He wants to be in control room. Control room manages the whole plant. All the buttons and all the computers and everything. And he believed that we cannot do that kind of job. Yes. When we get one Hispanic person in there, he make it, then I was the second. And we make it, and they make money. And then we went up and up and up. So the final thing, they offered me to be a supervisor with the other 2 white people. So, but we have to fight. We have to work hard and demonstrate that we can do things like anybody else. That we can be equal in the business. And then before in '88, the Lord called me. I was Catholic, good Catholic. And he called me, and I surrendered my life to him. 6 years later, I became a pastor. And here I am.
Amen.
But I'm happy because I think we have to fight for what we believe.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Nothing coming easy.
Go ahead. No, I was going to speak on stereotypes as far as what we deal with as African Americans, and I just want to point out, and I might have said it before about my son. He wears dreads. That's another big stereotype with the African American community. He's not that. As far as jobs, you're turned down for this and that because of your jobs. So and for me to have to tell him, okay, well, you need to cut your dreads, you need to wear this or that to be accepted. And, you have to conform to certain things in life already to be just to get in the door for some things. And as far as, I guess when we talk about culture, some African Americans, that's part of their culture. And so you're asking them to get rid of something that's their culture. But have you ever asked yourself something about your culture that you would be willing to get rid of? There's, like I said, when you have stereotypes of people because of what, the way they look, we have a problem. And what we need to do is start finding solutions and, things to resolve some of the issues that we have within the community. I mean, not just here in Mount Pleasant, but all over.
Yeah.
So we, understanding each other's culture is a
Absolutely.
big part
Yes, sir.
of what our problem is.
One of the things that all of this has really weighed on my heart is how often do I have somebody that looks like me, believes different than me, over for dinner in my house?
Yeah.
What lengths are we going to in order to get to know one another?
Right.
I think that's where I'm being challenged, because again, to go back on the relationship side of things, everything changes when we know one another. Truly know one another, and so I think I appreciate you saying that, because that's a challenge for me as I'm trying to think through how can I be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And so, not everybody come over to my house tonight. I don't have brisket's too expensive these days. You hear me? Hey, next question I want to direct towards Pastor Eddie and Jimmy. What has been a challenge that you have faced in your life as a result of your ethnicity?
So I grew up, I went to Chapel Hill Independent School District. So at the time where I was going there, probably up until I was about a sophomore, it was predominantly Caucasian. So mostly white people. There was some Hispanics there as well, but it was mostly white. All through elementary school, for sure, I got targeted and picked out for certain things. If teachers saw me talking more, which I talked a lot, I mean, I won't deny that. But if teachers saw me talking, they automatically assumed that I started the conversation. They automatically assumed that it was me. They automatically assumed that I was the troublemaker. And sometimes, even though it may have been true, I never was given the benefit of the doubt. In many instances, I had several friends who automatically assumed that just because I was black, I could run fast and jump high. And although that was true, they didn't get to know me before they assumed that.
Can you still run fast?
If I have to. So, and I think it was my father, and so kind of what he was talking about on the hair. So my dad always cut my hair on a 1. So if you're not sure, just basically what that means, that's almost bald. So my dad always cut my hair very low because he felt like I had to deal with so much already as a black kid in a predominantly white school, and he was already at the school a lot defending me and my sisters. So he would cut my hair low, and I think it was when I was a freshman. Everybody got their hair cut by Prince, my cousin. And so I went and got my hair cut that summer, heading into my freshman year. I had this nice outfit on at the time. South Pole was like it. If you didn't have a couple South Pole shirts, you didn't have it. So you had South Pole on, I had the new Nikes on, I thought I was clean. Had the design in my head, my name was in my head, And to me, that was just representing pop culture. Like, just, I wanted to be cool, trendy, hip. But when I went to school with the haircut and I had a little design in my head, principal automatically assumed I was gang related. And so I got pulled into the office and I was told that my dad had to come up there and basically tell him he's not cutting his hair. But they told me after that haircut not to get haircuts like that anymore. And I think it was kind of one of those things that it hit me in the head and just let me know that even though I was accepted to a degree by some of my white counterparts, I was still black. And it hurt because I already felt like a lot of my family and other black people that may have gone to Mount Pleasant or Pittsburgh, where I did move from, didn't see me as black because I went to a white school.
Yeah.
And then you have people at the school who didn't see you as white, obviously. They saw you as black and they treated you as such. And so, I mean, it carries all the way up until I got jobs working as a teller at the bank, and because I dressed nicer than most, And I mean, I don't even think it was even a matter of me having nicer clothes. I think it's just something about seeing an African American male dressed to a certain standard that makes people think that he's dressing nicer than me. I can have the same thing Pastor Chris has on, but people see me as he's sharp, he's dapper, you know. And so I would have the tie on with the shirt and the slacks, and I would be cashing through, and they would always say things like, you know, you look so nice, you speak so well, you carry yourself in such a nice way, and even though I take it as a compliment, at the same time in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, is this not
Why are you shocked?
bingo? Is this not something that is a norm to you? Why is this such a shocker to see somebody who looks like me, dress like me, act like me, speak like me? It's not speaking white, but it's like we put labels on things. I'm speaking professionally and with clarity, so hopefully when I talk to you, you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been a thing all the way up until now. You know, people still make little comments or jokes at you that symbolize just because you're black, this is who you are.
And that's kind of like some of the wording. You pretty good for a black guy.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
what am I supposed to be?
You speak well
you,
for a black
You
guy.
speak pretty well for a black guy. You know, well, you speak pretty well for a white guy. You know, you know. So it's just, you know, those type of remarks
Right.
and suggestions that maybe you shouldn't be as intelligent or as well dressed as what you are.
Right.
You know, it just stems into you're not supposed to be where you're supposed to be, and then of course, like I said, from the black community, well, he thinks he's better than us because of this, and because he goes to school there, you know, and you living life like that again, it's hard for people, you know, it's really hard. It gets confusing and frustrating, and you know, a lot of people wonder why. Well, he's angry about this or he's angry
Right.
about that, not
Right.
knowing exactly what this kid is going through.
Bingo.
You know,
And I'm sorry, this last portion. It gets so bad to where even black people are shocked when it happens. For instance, when I graduated from junior college at NTCC, I was the speaker for my graduation, and I sang at the graduation. So basically, the program consisted of me several times in one setting. And when I told my parents that was going to happen, the first thing they said was, "What?" Because they couldn't believe it either. Because it comes as a shocker to people, not because they didn't think that I had it in me to do those things, but they didn't believe, or it was hard for them to believe that somebody gave me that big of a chance to not only speak at graduation, but to sing at graduation as well. You know.
Absolutely. Pastor Eddie, what about you?
I got so many stories. I'm gonna just try to narrow it down to.
Hey, don't perpetuate the stereotype that we're all long-winded now.
So I remember graduating from college, you know, living my life, maybe like 12 years ago. Stay in contact with a lot of my classmates, and one of the young ladies, white young lady that I was friends with at school, I ran across her here in Mount Pleasant, and she said to me, "Hey, I seen in the paper where you got your master's degree." And she said, "Oh, that's great." You know, she had her, and she says to me, short story, she says to me, "Yeah, my father and my mother was talking about you were one of the good ones that made it out." And it upset me. And I said to her, "So am I supposed to say thank you for telling me that I made it out?" As if some of the black kids that I went to school with didn't get a master's degree, they didn't do nothing with their lives. I said, I can name 5 or 6 black guys in my class that maybe didn't get a master's degree, but they make 6 figures. They doing very well for themselves. So don't put me in this category because your parents felt like I did what a black person is supposed to do to be successful. This is not a compliment. You know, I'm thankful that I'm blessed to get a master's degree, but this is not out the norm for black people. You know, And that bothered me terribly. 6 months ago, what it feels like to be ethnically challenged. 6 months ago, I was visiting a church here in Mount Pleasant. I took a sabbatical and I wanted to just visit other churches. I wanted to visit not my people churches. I wanted to visit other people's churches just to see and learn and grow. I ran into a classmate of mine, parents, and the father said to me, when they let you out of jail? It was after the church. And I'm leaving and I'm just meeting people that I hadn't seen in a very long time. And it's my classmates, parents. I know them. I play baseball with them since I was 5. I know them very well. They know me very well. And he said to me, when they let you out of the jail? When they let you out of jail? And I didn't respond. My mother said, you should have said something. I said, no, I'm good because I don't have no record. I don't have no stain. I don't have no stain on my life, on my record or whatnot. But that done something to me. You know, when I went home, it really affected me. For him to think that there was a possibility that I could have been in jail, or to even mix me up with somebody that went to jail. You know, one more story and I'm gonna be done. You know, because I don't want to be the one. Yeah. As a black man, we're automatically racial profile. Automatically. It don't matter if I got hair on my head or if I had dreads or what, you know, however the culture is, we're automatically profile. I drive. I like to look at houses and I like to look at houses. Like I'm gonna build me a mansion one day. So I like to get ideas and I go through neighborhoods looking at houses. And I remember a time where I would go through neighborhoods. I used to have a Tahoe, and I used to have like these rims on, right? So if I go through a neighborhood, you know, now I'm not going through the hood. I'm going through the country club because I'm looking at what I'm gonna build.
You're trying to go there.
So yeah, so I'm looking at, you know, I would go through those neighborhoods, and by the time I come out of those neighborhoods, you know, somebody have to call the police.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look like, you know, I drive a dope dealer's car, or I drive a gangster's car, or, you know, there's certain looks that will profile to be. But, you know, since I've been blessed to have a good education, pastor, church, all these things, me and my family, we drive nice cars now. You know, and that's to our preference. But it's amazing now, I could go through those neighborhoods, and they don't even bother me, they waving. And it's amazing that if you are who certain people feel you are or should be, then they won't. But if you're not me, just like Reverend Ralph said, if you're not what the criteria is set to be, then you automatically profile. Yeah.
That's a unique perspective that I don't know that I've ever had to process. You know, I want to throw this one out there to anyone. You know, I've heard people say, and you know, maybe you have too. Hey, it's 2020. Racism doesn't exist in America. You know, what would you say? I mean, have y'all heard that before?
I've heard it a number of times, and I say if it doesn't exist, I don't.
Okay.
It never stopped.
Okay.
It never stopped. It's just restructured.
Yeah.
Just like he brought up, and you brought up last week, you know, going down the road and worrying about the cops and breaking down your neck. You just brought up, it's not the cops. It's the citizens.
Mm-hmm. Because the citizens made the call. That's a unique
right.
perspective.
It's not just us. You know, I'm the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I said that last week. I'm the reason we're here. But it's not just me. It's not the badge. It's every one of us. We all are racist at some point about something. You know, some people are against the Hispanics, some are against the blacks. I can tell you the story of me getting beat up because I went to an all-black school in elementary, and I went to Beverly in Texarkana. If y'all know where that is, I got my butt kicked every day leaving school by blacks. But when I went to junior high and got back with them, they beat up all my white friends because they'd already beat me up for 10 years, you know? But, you know, it's here until everybody in this country and around the world. I mean, you can look at Afghanistan. We got tribes fighting tribes just because of the religion. There's a major problem.
That's a really
another side is I think that needs to be said, and that is it's not a one-way street.
It's true.
Every white man is not a bad man. Every white person is not prejudiced. And that message, because so many times we expand over everybody.
Yeah.
There are some situations that I've gone through that if someone hadn't taken, and he did several times, they didn't do it because of my color, or they didn't do it to advance themselves. They put themselves on the line for me. And it put me in a position that I otherwise wouldn't have been in. So we need to keep the situation such that everybody has some adjustment to do.
Amen.
We all have to come, and that adjustment comes right back, what we're talking about comes right back to what Jesus said to his disciples. Love ye one another. Not the white one another, black one another, all one another.
Yeah.
And we brought up the term stereotype, but it is also condensed within the race itself.
Yeah.
Jimmy said earlier about he's too white
Yeah.
for the blacks, or he's not black enough, or whatever. You understand?
Yep, yep.
And you know the thing about it is the success aspect. We're so competitive with one another. When you see a brother who's rise up, you know, who's come from the hood, you know, there's something good can come from the hood.
No.
And when that person raises up, you know, within the community, instead of supporting him all the way, when he gets above water, then you got issues with him because now he think he's better than us. No, people are lying and said, man, I ain't gonna never, I always want to stay in the hood. No, I didn't. As soon as you come out of the hood, you wanted something nice. Eddie just didn't go into the country club. He envisioned of living there. There could be no unity until we start within ourselves, that we look inward. You know, the first thing is you got to want the change.
Yeah.
Change is difficult, but it's necessary. But the only way you're gonna change, you got to change yourself. You can't see colors. You got to look at one another as people, human beings and brothers. And when you do that, when you first start at home, when you first start within your own race, you know, supporting and loving one another, then you be able to transcend that to the others. You know, people have issues. Hate is about something within them.
It's sin.
That's the word. It is sin.
It is sin.
It's sin.
It's definitely sin.
It's it. So you know, most of us are pastors here. Jimmy, I know you want to speak to that, and I want to come back to God has created us, and when I say us, humanity.
That's true.
All of humanity, and what? In the image of God. Genesis tells us that. Let us make man, and that's not just gender specific.
That's right.
That's humankind. Let's make humankind in our image. So we're all made in the image of God. So how does having that view change the way we perceive one another?
So, righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is a reproach to any people. Meaning that we're not lifting up the bloodshed of Jesus Christ. We're not showing agape love and love one another. You know, not because of your skin color, but how we know we love you regardless. Unconditionally love. You know, I brought the narrative to Brother Carlton last week. You know, the power of agreement.
Yeah.
When we can come together, how can two walk together except they be agreed?
Yep.
You know, and what happens is when there's no fundamental truth, with fundamental togetherness, we can never have peace. You understand? When we look for it, I mean, he's out to get me, she's out to get me. And when we look for that, we'll never have peace.
And, you know,
We'll never be able to get together. There'll never be unity. You understand? Individualized. I use a terminology, and I don't want to do it talking because there's somebody that's having me say anything. I call it the long ranger mentality. People do things just want to be seen. You know, that they're not hipping the cause. They're just doing it because they want to be seen, and having to realize that there's envious and hatred within ourselves. And we can never be transparent to love one another.
I was
As
just
a preacher term.
I was just gonna add to what he was talking about with how people in our own culture view us in certain aspects. What I was gonna say to that is that all of those things usually evolve from racism and through slavery and things like that. So you got people working in the fields, people working in the house, and they would make us believe that these people are better than you because they're working in here, and these people are worse off than you because they're working outside. And we carried that culture over even to society as of now. So it has turned us even as a people against each other, you know? And it's something that, like you said, it takes us showing that agape love and just showing one another that love that just cannot be changed, cannot be wavered, to get that through to people. And we start interpreting that even to our own kids and in generations to come, then, and I think only then, colorism, you know, you got things like that have evolved from racism. We view people in our own culture as, if you dark skinned, you ain't it. Or if you light skinned, you are, you know, and those things have stemmed from racism, because the way white people have viewed us in a lot of aspects is that, and this is not all white people, but the way a lot of white people have viewed black people is, if you were light skinned, you even got a little more privilege because you were closer to white. You know?
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions that I want to be sure to get to. You know, what has drove where we are right now as a culture is the video of the death of George Floyd at the hands of a white police officer. Okay, so Pastor Roberts, Chief Holcomb, let me ask you this case. In the cases of police brutality, okay, I mean, I don't know George Floyd, but even if he was the worst offender of the criminal, did he deserve to die like that? Right? So my question is in the cases of police brutality like George Floyd, do you believe that that is a reflection on all police officers?
Oh, no. No, I don't believe it's a reflection of all police officers. I think we have a lot that, and it's seen in all of those protests from city to city. You saw those that were that followed the code, that were well mannered, and then you see those that come and push the 75-year-old man down. Yes, I don't believe that there's 99% all policemen, but I do believe that there are many good policemen. There was a time, like what you were talking about. Yes, I've experienced that same thing. You drive, you stop at, you stop, and the first thing one would do is let you know who's in charge by doing things like what's your hurry? Well, you may not even be speeding, you know, and just the way they talk. But then again, I've seen in the last few years that there are more people. Number one, they're more educated, they're better trained, and they realize that other people are people.
Yeah.
It doesn't take but one or two.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think that's represented. If I did, I tell you, it would be sure enough trouble. But what we have is we have to realize that the police department and all the public safety is for public safety. And sometimes we forget that. It's all for public safety. Every person is a human being, a part of which you've been employed in order to keep safe.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. You know, Chief Holcomb, I want to publicly say how grateful I am for you and for the Mount Pleasant Police Department. And I recognize that you unfortunately wear a badge that has been stained by a few. But I know that you've worked hard within the police department here at Mount Pleasant to make sure that these kinds of things are are eradicated. So share with us a little bit about that, about
Well, like I said last week, we've arrested our own officers. We've put them in jail. We've fired many of officers because of actions that they chose to take that were outside our core values. And that's nationwide. That's not just Mount Pleasant. That's everywhere. The police departments as a whole, one of the things I was thinking about what you were talking about the public safety, kind of brought me to is our agency's very well paid for this type of area, but it took us years to get there. When I first came here, I made $28,000 a year. There are still police departments paying $28,000 a year. Think of the quality of person that they're getting. They're not getting the educated, the well-trained. And that's opening up some of these rural areas to these officers that shouldn't be officers. Let's just put it on the table.
right.
But even at the good departments, we talked about y'all having pastors that are in it for the money. Cops are in it for the dough, or they're in it for the power, or they're in it for something else. They're not in it for the public safety. And that there are issues no matter where we look in this country. Law enforcement's no different, but I can tell you with every inch of my heart, there isn't a man or a woman in the Mount Pleasant Police Department that doesn't want to do the right thing.
That's great.
Oh, real quick. I think one of the issues around the country as far as police officers, like if you see some of the people, some of the officers that has committed these acts of crime, they usually have a long list of complaints. They've had an incident in a previous station and being transferred, and what you're getting is the leftovers.
Right.
And honestly, I feel like that just like with anybody else in a working environment, once you have a stained record like that, I'll tell you right now, my city manager, my chief here, we're not going to get that here. You know, that's not going to happen here. You got that many complaints.
That's a red flag.
Yeah. And if you're coming from somewhere else, I want to know why you left there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because what we're getting filtered down is a bunch of stuff about people that's not worthy of putting on their badge.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
And if you'll see that with every incident around the country where you had the incidents with George Floyd and previous incidents, it's just.
So let's talk a little bit about, we're kind of dabbling into the current issues now.
Yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts about rioting and looting?
Looting, and I think it's all the way wrong.
Yeah.
It's no right. It's not gonna solve anything. It's immoral. It's not biblical. There's nothing correct about looting and rioting. That's not how you handle. That's not how you resolve issues. You know, that's the opposite of being a Christian.
Right.
And looting, people that are looting, and you know, we're finna get real controversial now because we lied. We're finna get real controversial.
Yeah.
And those that loot and riot are those that are taking advantage of
Exactly.
the situation.
Yes.
Because we're not going to get the answer, we're not going to come to a resolve from the looting and the riot. We're going to get resolved from the peaceful protest, from the sitting down, discussing what the problem is, and coming to a resolve. We're not going to get anything, nothing positive is going to come from the looting and the riot. And nowhere in scripture that it talks about
That's right.
looting and riot, and those that did were not godly.
Yeah.
In those incidences, those people they weren't there for the cause.
Right.
They were there for themselves. You got those, what's in it for me? And when they saw the opportunity to where they could disguise their true desire, and that was to get what they wanted, they started looting and robbing. And like Brother Eddie said, there's nothing right about it. It's destroying property. And I guarantee you, most of those that were doing it didn't live there.
Yeah. So they came from
They-
with
mo-
an agenda.
Exactly, because it doesn't bother. I mean, there are those that will, but most of them, I guarantee you, came from somewhere else where it didn't make any difference. Because I'm going, when it's over, I'm gone.
We had a local person that wanted to start a riot, and they wanted to. They were saying they wanted to start it at Walmart, and people were asking her, "Why do you want to do this riot? What's your real reason?" She said, "I need a new comforter and a PlayStation."
Oh, wow.
Goodness.
That's,
See,
that's wrong.
That hurts the cause.
Now
right?
listen, let me say this. When looting and rioting goes on, it takes what we're focusing on off.
Exactly.
And then it goes to the looting. Now I'm gonna say something that I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody when I say this. But when people loot and riot, they say their motive is so that we can be heard and justice be right. Now we know that looting won't get us there, but it appears now that America now is focusing on the rioting instead of what the real issue is. So you done left one situation why we can't be heard, just like the flag, the kneeling.
Yeah.
Wasn't about the flag, it was about peacefully saying, hey, listen to us, what's going on. Wasn't about disrespecting America. Now it is, we done went from the flag to the rally, but there's still an issue that we're trying to get to it.
So let me ask you this, Carlton, are dialogues like these helpful?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said last week, I feel like most of the main problem to me is that there's no direction, and we need to heal too. I know personally, I'm my wife into this. I know when I talk to my wife, I might have a problem about something, but when we're talking about it, just us talking about it helps us heal from it.
Yeah.
It helps clear the table. It helps us breathe. Now we know what's going on. But now I feel like in our country, we sweep so much under the table, and we try to quiet so many things down to the point to where we're not healing from it, and we're not moving on from it. So yeah, we may have done it right now, but we're still mad about it. And so when we move on to like later on down the line, and something else happens, it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse because nobody is healing from it, and there's no direction from it. Like nobody is leading, nobody is talking. And I mentioned last week, I didn't mean to say it like nobody was doing anything around here, but I mentioned about the church leading. Our nation needs the church to lead. Our nation needs the church to stand up and say something and do this. And I feel like this is a great thing for our nation to see, us meeting together and loving one another and showing them there's a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Because some people just really don't know. Some people do it on purpose, just for the sake of doing it, but some people just really don't know, and they just follow whoever's there to follow. So I feel like if we lead, it'll cut down. It won't fix the whole problem, but it'll at least help it.
I think the conversation is wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
definitely.
I took the word last week about reconciliation. How do we reconcile injustice, police brutality, all the other injustices that's going on in our country? And the only way we're going to do it as brethren in the Lord, coming together with that main focus. Because why? There's many sides. And I shared it before, if the devil can distract you, he already got you.
Always.
The looting, the rioting and stuff is a distraction from the main problem. Kaepernick taking a knee, that was advised by a Marine veteran, instead of sitting on the bench to get up and kneel down, that's better honor to the flag by you kneeling than sitting on your rump as the anthem being played. But that backfired. So when we understand we're being distracted from, robbing and stealing and all these things, but still a man died in handcuffs.
Which is the issue.
Is the issue. A woman was in her own house, got killed
In bed, sleep.
in bed, sleep. Is the issue. those are the things that, how do we reconcile? You know, but it starts with a dialogue or a conversation. You know, reconciliation. How do we reconcile? That's the passion you had last week, Brother Chris, about as brothers coming together. How do we reconcile this?
And the community needs to know. That's why I think this is important. The community needs to know that there are people, their so-called leaders are compassionate about the situation.
Yes, sir.
That we're not just sitting and drawing a line and you on this side. To come and do this and then make it available to all the community, it says that we understand the problem. We're trying to get to the solution and expand it over the whole community.
Well, and I think for me, one of the things I said last week is if I'm being absolutely transparent before you guys, I've been a part of the problem in the past. I've said hurtful things. I've probably cast judgment in hurtful ways because I have a sinful heart. And that is sin. I recognize that in me. And it's important for me to recognize that, to slay it, and to do something about it. This is a growth opportunity for me. And this is an opportunity for me to further the image of God. All people are precious in God's sight. That's something that I've really learned, and it's been a challenge to me. One final question, and then I want everybody to have the freedom to be able to share kind of what's on their mind and on their heart. But what has been the greatest thing? Like, if you could say, what's the coolest thing that's happened in the midst of all of this chaos? What would it be?
I get to answer that one?
I threw that out there for the table.
Everybody look at me.
They set you up for that.
Yeah, they did. They did. Let me preface my answer with this. The blight on this whole process are that there are opportunists who have seized this crisis to further their cause. Whether it's a looter breaking into a Target store, or it's a politician who is trying to advance their political career, which stinks to high heaven, or it's some preacher trying to get his moment in the spotlight. All that stinks because they're taking advantage of a heartbreaking crisis to further their cause. What is the cause? The cause is creating respect among brothers in Christ and sisters in Christ. I said last week, and it's always going to be true, I'm always going to be white. Eddie Bratton Jr. is always going to be black. And nothing we do is going to change that. And it shouldn't, because God created us.
That's right.
God made us like this.
No mistake.
We shouldn't have to apologize for it. We shouldn't have to compensate for it. We should be able to be freely who we are and try to figure out who each other is. Have I stereotyped people? Have I been stereotyped? Yeah, not in the way you have. I'm from Louisiana. Do you know what you Texas people do to people from Louisiana? It's merciless. It's merciless. But we have to get to the place where when I look at a man and his skin is black, I don't immediately assume, well, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I look at a man whose skin is brown and I immediately assume, well, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not necessarily true, and more often than not, it's not true. I have to take the time to know you, and that ought to be the starting place. It shouldn't be that I assume you're bad because you're fill in the blank. It is, I assume that you got something to offer. You've got something that God's put within you, and I need to help figure that out. To me, that's the value of these conversations, and I would encourage all of us to be careful who we listen to when they say to you, oh, that Clint Davis, you can't trust him. He's that pastor of that big church out there in 49. Really? Do you know me? That Tony Rundle's, got to watch that guy. Really? Have you ever been with Tony? No, we've never. Well, I know him. And no, that's not who he is. we've got to take the time and make the effort to know one another, and to make a concerted effort to further this cause. Y'all, the furor is going to die down, and at the risk of being offensive, I'll borrow that phrase from you, Eddie. If we stop caring about this when the cameras go away and the lights are turned on and the furor is over, then shame on us.
That's right.
Because we ought to be better able to do something after the cameras are off and after the lights have subsided than in the midst of it.
Yeah.
So we better carry on. If we are who we say we are here at this table today, this better be a long-term process
Yeah.
and not a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe this cause, and I'm gonna let you go because you ain't said it. I believe this cause has made us come together first of all. I believe the George Floyd incident has finally broken a silence amongst other ethnicities other than black people. And I believe now because of that, now we can come to the table. Now I feel like you guys can see something that was either ignored or wasn't directly related to you, or however, now it has affected not only black people, but it has affected everybody. And so now we can come to the table and have a discussion about, listen to this, the inequalities in the social injustices in our own community. Not just police brutality, but other injustices that's going on in a place where we have control to try to resolve and neutralize. And so I think that's one of the good things that have come from this amongst us.
Yeah,
That's good.
very good.
I would have to say that for me personally, this has just been a wake up moment. It's not that you didn't recognize that there were those. There's always been that underneath, you sense it, you know it's there. I guess I should say it this way. For the first time ever in my life, I feel that I have more empowerment to actually do something about it. Because of just having relationships with some of the men that are around this table. I don't know all of you. I know Jimmy, and I've been to his church. I know Carlton. I've been to his church. You know, I've preached in their pulpits and had a blast with them, and so we've had connection. And so I've been able to look at situations and say, if that were Jimmy, my God, have mercy that I didn't do something to stop that before it happened. Because, and I think because we've had relationship, because we are connected. And I think a second positive is just the fact that there's communication happening. I'm not a social media guru by any stretch, but it doesn't take but maybe a click on social media to find a discussion somewhere. I think one of the negatives has been, and I know you didn't ask about negatives, but one of the negatives has been the blatant denial by people. The arguing and the bickering that you find, the stereotyping that you find that for whatever reason are seen as legitimate reasons to support your position. I said this Sunday when I was talking about it. I had been, and I know many people have been, the types that we need to love everyone except the ones who commit the crimes. And all of a sudden I realized that in that moment, what I basically said is my love is good for Jimmy as long as he's good. But if he slips up, then I can pull that love away because I'm justified. But really, that's not God. Nowhere in there is there these levels of love. Love is supposed to break down barriers. Love is supposed to, in fact, it says it casts out all fear. I mean, good grief. Perfect love is supposed to cast out fear, and it's supposed to draw us closer. I call it the ministry of the towel, of serving one another. You know, the negative has been that so many people, and this has been, and I'll say this I feel empowered, and yet I have seen so many other ministers who have tried to make statements and they get attacked by the people in their own churches or people in their community for even speaking out and wanting to do something. And it breaks my heart that even happens. People that know me, that are friends of mine over the years, have been able to approach me and say, this is probably the first time I've ever talked to you and felt like you were really open to this conversation. I'm like, well, shame on me. Shame on me that I have preached these types of messages and yet not been seen behind the curtain as approachable. And so just this has been an awakening for me personally, that I want this flame to continue in my heart. I don't want to rest until I see all of Mount Pleasant, at least, because this is my community. I've lived here long enough that I can say this is my community. I don't want to rest until I see us to where the person who responds in a negative way is seen as the outsider instead of the norm. Does that make sense? I want this to be so gone that the epitaph reads, "Thank God," more than anything else. And that's kind of my
I
heart.
think one of the positives, though, is goal-oriented.
Yeah.
The big picture, the focus. And when we focus on the plan or the purpose at hand, negativity is not even a matter. Neither is a conversation. The Bible tells us, there were 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, touching and agreeing. How many know the authority and the power when brothers can come together? He said, whatever you bind on earth should be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you loose on earth should be loose in heaven. And we have the authority and the power given by God to make a difference, not only in this pebble of the world, but to show, because this is going live and everybody can just do it. Sure. We're not doing it for the camera. But how many know the power to get togetherness? Focusing on the matter at hand, and that's what we're talking about, distractions. We have a problem. We have a sin problem. Yeah. It's the biggest problem we have in America. It's not colored in a skin color. It's not colored in other things. It's just what it is. The enemy is running rapidly, and we're just too quiet. Will we be willing to make a difference?
Amen.
As pastor, that's all we had. That's all the church had in the 60s and 70s. The pulpit. Are you willing to stand up? Dr. King was killed for a cause. Are you willing to put your life on the line to bring about harmony and peace? And that should be the focus and not on the negative. That's my piece.
Again, like I just say, communication, that's one of the biggest things I feel like we're getting out of. And to be proactive and not just reactive. We have to, we can sit down and talk, but we have to get some things in motion to change, and until we know exactly what that is, we can't change it. That's why we have these discussions, so we know exactly where we need to go to fix the problems that we need to fix in our community to begin with. But I think what we're doing here is great, and I don't want it to stop. Until this thing is gone, I'm willing to be here every week. If we need to be here twice, we got to be here twice a week. Until it gets fixed, I think it's our duty I certainly feel my responsibility that we should do everything in our power to straighten out what's going on around this world.
So what we talking about? That's good.
Pastor, just coming to my mind, we are here in church and I heard what you say, everyone just said, what the Pastor Glenn said, and really hit my heart. We lost the bishop. If you remember 2 Corinthians, Apostle Paul, 13, 14, 2 Corinthians, he talked about three things: grace, love, and fellowship. He said, when he dismissed the church, we went through the door. We need to see the world like the field to catch the souls. We need the grace of the Lord Jesus, the love of the Father, and the communion of the Holy Spirit. Yes, that's right. We forgot all the three things when we went out of church, and we do our own. Yes.
Yeah.
We need to put that three things together again.
Everybody got their sermon for Sunday?
All right.
Man, I got a
We got it.
But Pastor Glenn said,
Just cite your sources, you know what I mean?
Give quotation.
I know time is short. We've been going for a while. It's 1:30. I know several of you have other appointments. I have loved this. I've gotten to know you in a whole new way, and I'm grateful for your commitment to be here. And man, I look forward to continuing the dialogue. And man, I want you to know I really do consider it a privilege to be able to be a partner in ministry with you here to affect change and to advance the kingdom of God, because it's such important work, and it's the only hope of the world is Jesus. Because when we can see people the way Jesus sees people, it changes everything. When Jesus can change our hearts, it changes everything. And so, but we know also in this world we will have trouble. But take heart, He has overcome the world. And so, man, I really do consider it a joy and privilege to be partner in ministry. I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. I have no idea who was tuning in, but thank you for being a part of the conversation as well. And man, we say goodbye to y'all, and man, we look forward to doing this again. Yes.
One last thing, our peace parade that we had this past weekend went well. I know that was something that we thought about putting on pause, but I made the decision to go forward with it because it's something that needed to be done now. I thought about it after I got home, and after a few phone calls, a few concerned citizens also, that dealing with something when it's at its peak is the best time to confront it, not after it's cooled down and gone away. It made perfectly good sense to me. So I chose to go ahead and go with the parade, and it was a real good success. Chief was there. Again, I thank him for the police department and DPS and all of them that showed up. It made a big difference in how the community accepted the whole parade. And we had no problems whatsoever. I mean, it went beautiful. So I wanted to thank Crystal a number of times when it was organized, and also Chris. Yeah, a lot of it was so many people involved, and I just want to say that it went great. It made a big impact.
Thank you for sharing that. Hey, again, thanks for being here, guys. I love you. And man, there's food right on over there. And I put the buns out.